Many Amazon sellers lose money because they don't properly track their profits. In this video, Alex from SELLERBOARD breaks down key areas of profit calculations to help you understand your real profitability. You will learn how to track fluctuating costs, navigate different Amazon fees, and manage your cash flow. If you want to use SELLERBOARD yourself to track your profits, find the link in the video description below.
Hello, Alex. Great to have you back on Orange Klik YouTube channel. And today we're gonna discuss a very important topic regarding being profitable when selling on Amazon. And more specifically, you're gonna go over 5 different things or 5 tips Amazon sellers could use to improve their profitability analysis, actually without using any software, but we're gonna also cover why using a software might be a good idea to be more time efficient. As always, let's start with your introduction and tell us also how SELLERBOARD usually helps Amazon sellers and what do you do in Amazon space.
All right. Hello, Lisette. Thank you again for the invitation. Always a pleasure to be part of your videos and the content. So, yeah, my name is Alex. I'm part of the marketing team at SELLERBOARD. SELLERBOARD is a profit analytics software for Amazon sellers, and we specialize in providing a solution to understand your numbers, your profitability as a seller, and have, that clear vision of are you making a profit or not? Because this is basically the bottom line of any business. Is it worth it or not? This is what we do. We also bring to the table some additional tools, just to automate some of the processes inside an Amazon business. But yeah, profitability is our main focus. So today we're going to talk about that.
Awesome. I just wanted to say that I think it's an important video for both like the sellers who are just starting out, but also the ones who are already selling for a while, because it seems like oftentimes it's very difficult for Amazon sellers to make the right profitability calculations because there's so many elements to consider and to really understand what's your kind of real profit. So I'm very eager to hear what are your tips for us today to do it better.
Yeah, definitely. Then let me share my screen and jump into a demo that I've prepared. So you're selling on Amazon, and the main question, are you making a profit or not? Why is it important? Because as Lisette mentioned, it's oftentimes a little bit complicated to take into account all of the factors that needs to be, introduced into the equation to really understand how profitable you are. So if you are able to make those profit calculations on different levels, on an account level, on a product level, then you are able to make those decisions that will help you improve profitability. So some of the questions that Amazon sellers can ask themselves just to understand a little bit better how well are they doing with their profitability analysis are as follows. For instance, if you're taking into considerations, storage fees per product, if you're taking into consideration the cost of your inbound shipments that you're doing, when prices change on the listings because, of the competitor activity, how does it affect your profitability? Is it still profitable to be on that listing to sell the product? And if you have changing cost of goods with different batches of products, how do you take that into account? Because oftentimes, a new batch of products can be more pricey, and then your profitability as a result obviously changes. So you need to change and adapt the new price of the product, because otherwise it will make no sense to sell it at all. And there are also a lot of other questions that, we need to kind of think about on a daily basis. And today we're going to cover some of those important areas of profitability calculation and some basic rules that you need to start with in order to ensure that you have like a solid, foundation for understanding whether you're really profitable or not. All right. So let's start with first things first. In general, tracking your profitability as a part of your daily routine and thinking about, your calculations regularly, this is the first and most important tip, because there are a lot of sellers that just start out and they focus on the sales. So actually, fun fact, this is how SellerBoard was born. The software itself was founded when one of the founders, he was an Amazon seller back in 2017, and he started out, he got some traction with this, the product that he had. And at a certain point, he understood that his sales are rising, but there are new competitors on the listing. And with rising sales, he didn't actually understand whether the new conditions and the new context still makes all of those sales profitable. So is he just fulfilling orders, or is he actually making a profit with every unit sold? This was the question that gave birth to the SellerBoard as a software. So track your profitability. Tip number one, do it on a daily basis, because in general, in every business, there are three main reports that you need to think about. The first one is the profit and loss report, which should answer the question whether you are making money on a single sale or single unit that you sell. Then you have the cash flow report, which basically shows you if you have enough resources, enough money to operate your business in general. And then you have the balance sheet. So it tells you all of the things you need to understand about your stock, your inventory, and when and how much you should reorder in general. So you can think of our software, SellerBoard, as the first one, a tool that lets you understand your P&L. But besides that, also it will help you understand your inventory levels a lot better. So we are talking today more about the first one, the P&L part, because calculating your profit can be done in different ways. You can do it by hand. You can do it at the very simplest way. You can actually understand what is your profit per unit, try to multiply it by the number of units that you've sold. But that is imprecise because you're not taking into account a lot of other factors, like different additional Amazon fees, then different overhead expenses that you encounter, and other factors that fluctuate throughout the time and are different in different periods of times. So then you can use the services of an accountant, but that is basically a very timely solution. An accountant will give you numbers that will be precise, but they will not be a source of making decisions for your business, because the results will come in late. But another thing that you can do is use the reports that you have in your Amazon Seller Central, and use Excel files, to work with those numbers, extract the numbers, and do all of that work, all of that math. But it is very time consuming. And by the time that you've done making those calculations, the numbers have already changed, and it will not be relevant enough for the moment. So the optimal solution would be to have a system in place that would give you live calculations that will pull all of the live data through API from Amazon, and then show you the real numbers that you have right now in your business. Besides SellerBoard, there's a ton of different software that does just that. So it's up to you to make, the decision. But definitely, this is our recommendation. Find a solution that suits your needs and gives you the option to understand the situation right on time. So basically right now, gives you a live view of everything that's happening right now. Another thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that Amazon actually has a solution of its own. It's called the Amazon FBA Revenue Calculator, but it's more like a preview tool. It will fit better the needs of sellers that are just starting out and maybe even just considering selling on Amazon, because there are a lot of limitations. So it's a basic tool. It's available to the sellers that have both any kind of plans with Amazon, but it has its own limitation, doesn't take into account a lot of different fees, and the output heavily relies on the accuracy of the data that the seller inputted himself. But you can definitely play around with it, and just, if you're starting out, So this is one thing also to take into consideration. Then let's go to tip number 2. You need to think about all of the costs that are related to your Amazon business, and let's go through some of the main categories of these costs. So the first ones are the FBA fees that, let me give you a quick tip. If you are using the Amazon Seller Central for accessing your FBA fees, then know that the numbers that you have in your manage inventory section, those are an estimation, and you can get the exact numbers that are related to your fees only in the reports. So you can pull those and kind of do the calculations with them, or you can see your actual fees in the software that you connect to API. All right, so important fact. So this is an estimation in manage inventory section. Take that into account. Another important thing is that the FBA fees are constantly changing. If you are a seasoned seller, then you probably know that the FBA fees change multiple times per year, and you need to be sure that you are actually working with the most up-to-date values today. So because otherwise your calculations will not be correct. So they also change without notifications, and oftentimes you don't really know which fees change and what are the new values. So working with SellerBoard, just a side note, you have the option to pull out a report and see if the FBA fee changed over time, and if you have been overpaying in FBA fees, if they decreased actually, but you've been overpaying, having the previous values applied, then you might get a reimbursement for the difference for the period that you've been overpaying in FBA fees. This is, I think that I can talk a little bit later, but just take into account that when accounting for the FBA fees, just think about the fact that they always change. You need to constantly scan the situation with them. Another thing is the storage fees. So the storage fees are a thing that changed also throughout the year. There's the period with the regular value for the storage fees, and then you have some periods like, for instance, Q4, when you have a lot higher storage fees, and then you have also the long-term storage fees. So also that needs to be taken into account when doing calculations. All of the hidden so-called fees. I remember one of the recordings when Lisette actually asked me about, some of them, what are these fees? And when we are talking about the hidden fees, an important thing to mention is that different FBA fees are applied to different models. So if you're, depending on the business model that you have, depending on the type of the products that you sell, you might have different FBA fees applied to your business. So it is a good thing also either to try and analyze them, get acquainted with all types of FBA fees, and when doing your calculations by hand or manually or in spreadsheets, try to take as many into account as possible, or having an automated solution like a software, then you will be sure that all of the existing FBA fees that apply to your specific business will be taken into account. So this is another pro for having a solution put in place, like a system. Okay, then the cost of goods, they change over time. It's a normal thing. So you also need to take that into account. If you're selling the same exact product, but you had one cost of goods in a batch, and then the price from your supplier changed, and now you have, with a new batch of products of the same product, you have a different cost of goods, then you need to account for that, because that affects profitability as well. And then you have several models how you can account for fluctuating cost of goods, by period, by batch, or by marketplace, because you might be having the same products sold in different marketplaces, and you will have different cost of goods for them. So do take that into account. And there are different methods for tracking changing COGS. As I said, by period, then you have the FIFO, so-called logistics method, the first in, first out, and the weighted average. We do in SellerBoard the weighted average because it's close enough to suit most of the seller's needs. The ideal one actually is the first in, first out method, but that would imply that Amazon would tell us which product was sold from which batch, but we don't get that information. So it's at the time, it's technically impossible. But as soon as we'll get our hands on this technology, we'll try to work with it as well. All right. I already talked about this, that you need to account for changing COGS. If you will, pay some time to check out the demo account in SellerBoard, you will be able to play around and see how we do that, how we give the flexibility to account for changing cost of goods. Another thing to talk about are the overhead or so-called indirect expenses, which include all of the things that you pay for outside of the Amazon space, I'd say. So if you're using software like SellerBoard and you're paying for it, if you're doing photo shoots for your products, if you're, for instance, a private label seller, then you pay for those photo shoots. If you're renting a warehouse, if you are using virtual assistants, if you're paying for other services like accounting, then all of that needs to be taken into account. It's a part of your business and it affects your bottom line, your profitability. So definitely include that in your calculations as well. All right, we do have a special module for that. I'm not going to describe it in great detail. I think also, Lisette, we have a video on that separately. So anyone interested, definitely go check out that piece of content on Orange Klik. Other costs that might be also important for you and need to be taken into account. If you're working in Europe, think about VAT. If you're working with European marketplaces, that is definitely something that you need to think about and also include it in your calculations. All right, tip number 3, don't underestimate returns. So the thing with returns is, first of all, that a lot of the sellers do not actually pay enough attention to how returns are accounted for and what is the actual cost structure of returns. So let me break it down for you. First of all, if you will have an automated calculation system in place, then you will be able to understand how much exactly are you losing because of your refund costs. So let's talk a little bit about the refund cost structure. So over here on this diagram on the left, you have this green vertical line, and imagine that this is the price that the customer actually paid. So this is the full price of the product that he paid for. And you can break it down into the profit that you are making with this sale, the cost of goods of the product, the FBA fee that you are paying, the referral fee, and maybe a shipping chargeback. So this is how the price is broken down into components when a sale is made. But when a return is made, so basically a refund, on the other hand, on the right, you can see that there are things that are refunded by Amazon, like the shipping chargeback, the referral fee is refunded by Amazon all of the times. And then there are things that are not refunded by Amazon. So your cost of goods, this is important. It is refunded only if you can consider it as refunded only if the item is returned in sellable condition. So if the customer asked for a refund but returned the product in unsellable condition, then this is a loss for you, for the seller. If it's in sellable condition, then obviously it can be put back into the market. So you can consider that this is also refunded. But then you had the FBA fee that is definitely not refunded by Amazon. You lose your profit, so nobody refunds that. And you have an additional refund commission that Amazon applies to you each time a customer asks for a refund. And all of these things, so your FBA fee, your profit, your refund commission, and potentially also the cost of goods, are your total loss that you get with every refund requested by a customer. So this is important to understand because returns are actually powerful profit killers. And once you understand that, then you will start paying more attention to your refunds and think, what can you do to decrease them? So it's an important point to talk about. All right. What can you do in order to minimize those return costs? First of all, understand why customers are returning, because some of the most common reasons actually are the fact that the customers' expectations are not met with the product, and not necessarily because of the quality of the product, but because they got the wrong impression about the product. So what can you do to fix that? You need to describe your product better, in greater detail. You need to improve your images. You need to, make everything possible to show the size, show the color of the product as clear as possible. So when the customer chooses your product, orders it, and then receives it, then his expectations will be met. Because a lot of the times it's just because they didn't really get it from the very beginning. And then, this is one of the main things that we can recommend besides, addressing the quality issues. Obviously, you need to contact your suppliers and see what you can do about that as well. This is the place where you can access a report to see those reasons. So Seller Central reports fulfillment by Amazon and FBA customer returns. This is how you do it by default, or you can use SellerBoard just to do it quickly, to see the number of refunds in a certain period, and then also see all of the reasons grouped together by the number of times they occurred, right? Okay, let's move further. Another important thing to analyze is the percentage of sellable returns by product. So this is important because, as I talked previously, if the products are not in sellable conditions, these are losses, and you need to account for them when doing profitability calculation. Okay, tip number 4, try not to waste money on FBA errors. And what does that mean? So the FBA errors obviously do not depend on your actions, but you can do something not to lose money with them. So the first thing is actually go ahead and track them. So the FBA errors, for the new sellers out there, are the times when Amazon loses or damages your inventory. And what you can do, you can pull out reports just to see when those cases occurred. And SellerBoard gives you that option to pull a report, choose a specific time frame, and understand how many products were lost or damaged, how many products you got reimbursed for, and then you will have the difference, and you can actually contact the Seller Central support, and you can ask, hey guys, this is, please check, why didn't I get reimbursed for these cases when my products were lost or damaged? So you have several cases actually of different types of FBA errors. The first one I already covered with the lost and damaged inventory. Then you have the case when when customers do not return your products and they ask for a refund, they get reimbursed immediately by Amazon. You, as the seller, you get charged, but the products don't arrive to the warehouse. So this is also something that you can work with by pulling a report from SellerBoard and contacting Seller Central, Amazon Seller Central about it. Then I already covered the thing with increasing FBA fees that you are overpaying when you probably shouldn't be. And then you can also ask for a reimbursement there. And inbound shipments. If there are errors and you've sent a specific quantity of products and the Amazon warehouse didn't receive all of those products, this is also a potential reimbursement case. Okay, so I already talked about these cases, how you can work with them. The important thing here is that, you can do it both ways. You can access these reports in Amazon. You can find them and periodically address these cases. But if you work with SellerBoard, you will have it all grouped together, and you will be able actually to see these numbers arranged in a way that will give you a clear vision on how you can act and how much you can potentially get reimbursed with. Okay, tip number 5, an important thing, especially for the arbitrage sellers, but not only. you need to be aware of what happens on your listings, because when you are sharing listings with a lot of different sellers, other sellers, then there's a higher risk of changes being made on the listing. And if you are not aware of these changes, then you might start losing sales. So what are we talking about exactly? All of the changes, starting from names, descriptions, photos, relations between a child, a parent, a brand on the listing, maybe a suppression of the listing. So when it's closed, when you have new sellers on the listing, it's also important to know about that. If you lost the buy box, obviously, if your product was placed in another category, if the dimensions of the product changed, because it influences your FBA fees applied to you. Then if you have reimbursement opportunities, the ones that I just talked about a little bit earlier, if you have neutral or negative merchant feedback, and if you're about to run out of stock, all of these events are actually worth, keeping an eye on, preferably live, because if you know about a problem, in a timely manner, if you know that it happened just now, then you probably still have time to do something about it. And if you find about it late, then probably you already lost some money. So that's a profit killer. Okay, how do we solve that problem with SellerBoard? We have an alerts dashboard, which gives you the opportunity to choose which events are important to you. Now we've updated the dashboard. We even gave you the opportunity to prioritize them and then categorize them and work with your alerts like it was, if it was a to-do list. Just check them out. Whenever you work with a specific alert, you handle the case, then you check a box, and then it's handled. And then another important thing, that you can actually receive email notifications to the addresses you specify, multiple ones, or if you have several people working on a team and some of them take care of one part of the business, then they will get notified about specific events, and other people will get notified about other events, so you can keep it organized. This was the main part of the presentation, but as I promised Lisette, I will give you some additional tips, I guess. So you can actually go ahead and optimize your inventory management, and think about it. When you run out of stock, it's one thing that you obviously are not making any sales, because you're losing your sales because you don't have products to sell. But another thing, think about the fact that Amazon then decreases your ranking because you are not able to fulfill the orders, and that algorithm likes the listings that are more likely to convert and to sell and to have stock and be healthy. So you don't want that to happen. So you need to find out a way how you can set up a system that will help you stay in stock. And how you could do that? First of all, you need to understand when you should reorder a specific product. Then it would also be beneficial for you to know how much exactly do you have to reorder, so you will not be overpaying in storage fees, especially if those products will not sell for a certain amount of time and you have overstocked, then you might end up with long-term storage fees, and you don't want that, obviously. So a good thing to know and to start with would be understanding your sales velocity. How many units of a product are you selling per day? And then given the sales velocity, given your current level of inventory, try to go ahead and make like a forecast. When will you potentially run out of stock? Obviously, you can do that using a spreadsheet, but it's always better to have a tool set up in place that will track your sales and that will automatically update your numbers with your inventory, and then update your sales velocity depending on the sales that you have, and then obviously have that date when you should reorder updated for you. and maybe even better, send you a notification when that date will, come closer and closer to you. So, if you will be able to increase the accuracy of your forecast, taking into account, seasonality, your organic growth as a business, and then also be able to take into account the lead times that you have with your supplier. How much time does it take, for the product to get from the supplier to you, and then to your prep house and prep center, and then from the prep center to the FBA warehouse. So all of these lead times will eventually tell you how long will it take for a new batch of products to arrive to the FBA warehouse. So that's important because it will affect your forecast and your date when you should actually reorder the products. So try to think about that, because if you will set up a system that will take all of these factors into account, then you will be more likely to have a healthy stock without, having stock shortages and without going overstock. So, having things just sit on the shelves without being sold. All right, we do solve the problem, obviously. And then how do we do it? Exactly the way I just told you. We give you the option to input your lead times. We give you the option to specify how many units you have, in your prep center. We have several tools that help you automate the process, do it in bulk rather than inputting it manually for each ASIN separately if you have a lot of ASINs. And we do pull over all of your inventory and stock levels from Amazon, obviously. And with all of the data, sprinkling a little bit of forecast customization on top, just to give you flexibility with your things like, seasonality and organic growth, and even adjusting your sales velocity depending on your understanding of your sales history. Because obviously we are not taking into account periods when you were out of stock, but then you as the seller, as the owner of the business, you probably have a good understanding of what periods of your past sales are more representative for the future forecast than others, and you can also take that into account. So given all of that, you can set up a system that will help you stay in stock and improve your stock management. Okay, then the reviews. Of course, if you're a private label seller, this is a must-have, the product reviews, but also if you need that merchant feedback, seller feedback, just to give you a reputation. So you can set up a process to gather those reviews, because without them, your products will be less attractive for the customer, obviously. So what you can do is you can access the, of course, use the Vine program. It's definitely worth, the investment. It doesn't cost too much. I think it's $300 or something. But for new products that don't have any reviews at all, it's a must-have. Then again, use if you are not using any software for that, you can use a free solution from Amazon. You can go ahead and send out review requests. They have a special button for each order in Seller Central. But if you don't want to do that by hand, you can again find a solution that will automate the process for you. This is how what we do in SellerBoard. We give you the option to set up campaigns that will send out automated review request emails to your customers. And this way you can gather that feedback and those reviews that you need for sales. Next, PPC, important for, obviously, first of all, the private label sellers. If you need to advertise your products, then at some point you will have a lot of campaigns, a lot of bid changing to do, a lot of keyword harvesting to do, and doing all of that by hand at some point when you scale becomes, a tedious work, because you need to pay attention daily on the regular to what you just changed yesterday and how it affected your bottom line today with your PPC profitability. So with SellerBoard, we give you the option to automate the process, automate your bid changes. You just set targets, whether it's, AUGUS, a target AUGUS, or a target margin, profit margin for a product that's being advertised in a campaign. So you can do it in different levels, on the campaign level, keyword level. You can obviously analyze your performance with your PPC activity with the PPC dashboard. And if you set up automation, you can get recommendations from SellerBoard and decide whether you want to apply those recommendations or not, or even go and autopilot and just apply all of the recommendations that SellerBoard will give you. So yeah, think about how you can automate this process if you're working with the PPC campaigns on Amazon. It's a time-consuming thing, and if you will be able to get, a solution that will free up more time for you to take care of the more important stuff, like sourcing, like making some strategic decisions, then it's also a plus and a win for you. Yeah, so this is basically it. A short summary on this slide. I guess we're pretty much done.
So what a great overview of all of these different elements that influence the profitability a lot for Amazon sellers. And although I mentioned in the very beginning of the video that you can actually analyze everything manually and without using any software, I think we all agree now that having some type of help by integrating the software is very, very important, because as you mentioned, there are so many elements to it. Some things change over time, and it's just simply impossible to keep track on everything, especially if you're selling, of course, more than just one product and the product is already doing quite well, because then the sales volumes are big. Return rates probably increase a little bit as well, as you highlighted the importance of understanding the return cost as well. If you're watching this video and you have any questions related to what Alex just told us, definitely leave your questions down in the comments below, because Alex is a frequent guest on our channel, and I know he's more than happy to come back to this video and answer your questions. You briefly mentioned the demo account, which SellerBoard has. So we do have the link to SellerBoard in the video description, but can you explain what is the demo account and how sellers can test out using SellerBoard for their business?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that question. So a demo account is something that you can access on our landing page if you go to sellerboard.com, or best if you use the link provided especially for the orange Klik viewers, because it will additionally give you 2 months free of accessing and using the actual software. But the demo account is the first step that I would recommend everybody to go ahead and use, because it's actually SellerBoard with all of its functionality, but with products and with numbers that are there to give you a demonstration of what the software works and looks like. So it doesn't require any, any input from your side as the seller. You can just see all of the compartments, all of the modules, and all of the numbers, how you can work with them. And after that, once you see and check out how it looks, I would definitely recommend connecting your connecting your seller account, because you would have those 2 months to decide and to test out if it's a good fit for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like on our channel, we do have many very detailed videos about different features of SellerBoard, where you go through all of the features and customizable options for sales. But I think having the demo account is super helpful, because you can actually go into the tool and check out the features as they would be if you connect your Seller Central account. So definitely head over to the video description below to check SellerBoard out. And Alex, thanks once again for putting together the presentation and taking the time to educate our Orange Klik sellers community. And I do hope to have you back on the channel soon again.
I hope this video will give you some inspiration and ideas how you can better manage your Amazon profits. If you want to start using SellerBoard for making this process even easier to see your numbers, find the link in the video description below, together with a 2 months offer to sign up for SellerBoard. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe buttons below. Also, if you have additional questions about SellerBoard, don't hesitate to leave them into the section of comments. And now I recommend you to watch another video where you will learn how to set up alerts for your Amazon business using the same app called SellerBoard. Check this out.